Kevin with Gonro Games. So it is the 4th of July, and I got to get out of this no video rut. So we have been packed here at the store, and I know there is food at the park, so I'm just going to take y'all for a walk with me through good old Richfield, Utah, and we'll go check out and see what the events are like over at the park and kind of talk shop here for summer. So what do I have to talk about? First off, the market is much stronger than I even thought. I thought it might have just been a fluke with Final Fantasy, just like, you know, this is the first Universes Beyond that has really hit home with kind of nostalgia and the demographic. I think the thing they picked perfectly was the demographic, because everybody now in their 30s and 40s grew up with Final Fantasy, and the target demographic right now, or at least the people that I've talked about this in other videos before, you still go to conventions and whatnot, and you still see mainly the same people that I saw in my 20s and 30s at these same conventions. So Magic has aged, and it is a warning sign for Magic. It hasn't been able to do what Pokemon has done and pick up a lot of the young players. So I think we are in the next few years. I don't know if people can. I've always debated this with gaming, is how long, are people going to age with gaming? Because it used to be of course, you'd see at game stores, you always see the old kind of loner type guy that still played in their 50s and 60s and whatever at game stores. But the vast majority of people, once you're out of your 20s, they quit playing games and, went on to other things. But you've seen with Magic, it actually aged quite well with people continually sticking with it. And I've talked about this on this channel before, about how much longer I have to do YouTube videos or even run a store or kind of be in that scene before I get to become the creepy old man. And I've always flirted with transitioning over to a different job. But anyway, aside from that, I guess we get kind of definitely a rambly video for this channel. So where are we at now with Magic the Gathering? Final Fantasy continues to go strong. I'm seeing mythic prices. I just looked up a borderless card that I believe you can get out of a play booster. This still goes in the 150s, which is just nuts, in my opinion, for something that can still be opened out of just a regular pack for Final Fantasy. And the sales are quite strong, that people are still collecting this set like crazy. So the set's being played, it's being collected. It's got a lot of people back into the game, and the energy is back with Magic the Gathering. So anyway, don't know how creepy okay, let's actually get some of this footage of going into the park. You can see how packed our little town is right now for good old Richfield, Utah. Don't know if people want a camera in the face. Let's actually go this way. Let's go down an alley and we'll avoid the crowds here. Well, it's kind of weird with people with cameras and trying to record people, but I guess it is what it is when we get up there. So anyway, back to my ugly face. So Final Fantasy, to finish my thought here. So we've seen first, of course, the run on Final Fantasy products. And what I was expecting was then the market to go super lull. So anything not Final Fantasy to really do quite poorly, as all the money got purchased into Final Fantasy. But what we've seen is that the Wizards is pretty late restocking Final Fantasy. In fact, they still have not restocked any of the play boosters, bundles. Of course, collector boosters probably will not get a restock. And now we are seeing the market still have a lot of disposable money that is going into Magic. Like I said, it's brought a lot of people back into the game through the nostalgia factor of combining two of their, childhood games in Magic and Final Fantasy. And it's got people that had nothing to do with Magic now actually interested in collecting and actually getting into Magic. And instead of seeing what Lord of the Rings did, where Lord of the Rings just slurped up all the money that was available for that summer in Magic the Gathering, and everything else went into an incredibly bear market, like March of Machines through New Capenna era were very, very lackluster during that time period. What we're seeing in Final Fantasy is the opposite happen, is now people are coming in to purchase games, or purchase Final Fantasy, there's no Final Fantasy, and they're buying other stuff with Magic. So interesting thing that I've seen in the market right now, and it hasn't really hit like TCG or eBay yet, is distributors have, I run a little Google Sheets where I show my patrons what's available to order through distribution. And there has been from New Capenna forward, you could still got play boosters or draft and set boosters for all the sets from, you know, the previous rotation forward. Commander Masters, Dominator Remastered, Innistrad Masters, those things were still available for long periods of time at distribution level. So even though the market price wasn't reasonable compared to how much you had to, you know, purchase them from distribution, you could still get them. So now what we're seeing, though, is after this Final Fantasy craze, is a lot of that time period is gone. So even though the market price is not adjusted and you know, gone up in price due to, you know, supply and demand, distribution, it tells a different story. So that is, in my theory, is this is actually happening more on a localized level. So a lot of the people getting into Magic are not buying on places like eBay or TCG Player. So it shows that this is the type of demographic that's actually buying Magic, is the people who aren't that aware of like the secondary sites like TCG. And I mean, everyone knows about eBay, but if you're like a new player, possibly eBay is not like the route to go with you know, purchasing your first packs of Magic. You're going to go into LGS. And so what that is showing to me is that LGSs are restocking through distribution. And it always I always scratch my head here. I guess I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I don't check eBay prices or TCG Player. I'll just go on Distributor and buy from there, just assuming that it's a cheaper rate to go. When in fact, a lot of times you can get stuff on like TCG and eBay for cheaper than at distribution level. What that's showing me though is that game stores are actually selling a lot of product from that era and actually restocking on the things like Dominator Remastered, Innistrad Remastered, Commander Masters, all the rotated sets like March Machines, New Phyrexia, because what's happening is Final Fantasy, people that got into Final Fantasy and were collecting Final Fantasy are now moving backwards. So they started with Final Fantasy and now they can't get Final Fantasy product, and instead of being like, well, guess I won't spend on Magic, they're still spending on Magic. So it's an incredible sign. And a couple other indicators that have been going on too is I talked about how the Final Fantasy accessories were going nuts. It's just not Final Fantasy accessories. I can't buy any binders at distribution level that are zips. So all the premium based binders are gone. And so it's a really, real road time for Magic. So anyway, let's actually get some of this. You do like a little fish grab over here. I don't know if people can see over there. All the kids are grabbing fish. But anyway, let's try to cross the street here in a second. And possibly guess we're crossing. So we'll just do a loop around this park, and you can see good old Richfield, Utah here. So yeah, so it's a fish grab that's going on. So this is my childhood back here, is they release these rainbow trout into this little pond. They used to actually do it in the ditch over here, but yeah, and the kids, see if I can get an angle. Probably not. All right, we'll not stick around here. But anyway, don't show this to PETA, because I'm sure they'd have there you see the rainbow trout. Some nice little rainbow trout in there too. So we have a little fish hatchery that's like in the next city over, and I'm sure that's where they come from, is in these the next city over where they grab these fish. But oh boy, good old Richfield, Utah, 4th of July. So anyway, we'll try to find some food here and talk more about shop here. I don't know if you guys like this sort of video of like kind of you know, what's going on in the area. But anyway, a little more. You've seen the canyons of where I spent my childhood. Now I can show you a little bit of the park here. This is the main park here in Richfield, Utah, the city park. And growing up here, there's always like events going on. I don't know, it's pretty bittersweet growing up in a small town. As I say, we didn't have like a lot of like gaming. A few card shops came and went when I was a kid here. They're always tiny. We had a little place called it was called Hobby World, I think is what, Hobby Shop, Hobby something. Hobby Town, that's what they called it. And they did like RC cars and had some Magic, so that was my first exposure to Magic. And then we had like a sports card store that had some Magic in it for a while. But mainly it was just Walmart and Kmart where you had to buy your cards. So it's nice to actually offer it. We're actually super busy, as I stated. A lot of tourists or people that, like, this is typical of Utah, is, you know, there's no jobs here. So anyone that needs sort of education moves to either Salt Lake or California. But they always seem to always come back for holidays, and they come back with their juicy money. So we've actually had some really good sales here at the store today. So that's something cool. But anyway, So yeah, I just think I'll close this video. Let's do a little loop again around this park and call it good. But just thought I'd get some video out here and get back on track with things. And I want to know in the comment section, like, what's happening in your local scene too. Is you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing with other products starting to be, you know, sold out beyond Final Fantasy. And what I'm hearing though for transparency is that Final Fantasy is getting reprints galore. Those are coming in late July now, is what I've heard. And yes, even collector commanders are getting reprints. So anyway, I'm gonna grab some food here and call this video good as we've done a little loop here for good rich food. Thanks for watching.